Hey there, good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us on the Political Deep Dive this evening. It is my pleasure to introduce one of our regulars on the After Dark show, Tyler Smith, who's running for LNC Secretary. Tyler, how are you doing this evening?
Doing well, David. How are you?
Good, good. So we'll just dive right into it. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I am libertarian, small L for probably a good 12 to 13 years, big L for the past 5 or 6 maybe. I have been very involved with like promoting our message, everything like that, as far as ground games for local candidates all the way up to presidential candidates. I enjoy traveling and engaging in activism around the country for various affiliates and allies in the liberty movement. I'm originally from your home state, Princeton, West Virginia. I am a U.S. Air Force veteran. I am really, it's really hard for me to just do like the live bio. I'll be honest. I'm socially awkward when talking about myself.
I'm the same way. I'm not big about talking about myself. It feels weird when I do it, but yeah, I get you. So you're running for LNC Secretary. What made you get into the race?
So I have always been toying with the idea of getting involved. I've actually decided to go for LNC Secretary for a plethora of reasons. Namely, I want to help modernize and push the party towards a more fostering environment for training and everything like that, as far as getting our bureaucratic things handled and getting our LP worked and everything, so people can actually have a stronger concept of who we are, and also so our people who already are with us have an easier time understanding and staying connected with national and the very local affiliates. So this isn't to cast aspersion on the incumbent. I think we've both made that abundantly clear. Karen Ann and I have made that abundantly clear that we respect each other. There's not to be any like mudslinging. And frankly, if people do support me, if that's what they want to do it on your own time and do not do it in my name, because I won't stand for it. So
that's the way the internal election should be. This doesn't have to be mudslinging. It's just putting out your ideas as to how you want to take the office forward and let the delegates decide. Yeah, absolutely.
And that was, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, that was when I announced that I was going to do it in Tennessee at their state convention. It was because I was very envious of the situation they had with their chair race between Tricia Butler and Dave Jones, both of which I have met, I've talked to, and I was like, Tennessee can't lose today. I truly meant it. And this is one of those races that I feel like there is no way for the LP to lose, in terms of we still keep a balanced message between pragmatic messaging, economic messaging, radical messaging, everything like that. But at the same time, we have people who are capable of doing the job in question. So,
yeah, absolutely. They had a great choice. I met Tricia at the Pennsylvania State Convention last week, which is why we had the Best of show last week with Ashley Shade. So tell me about your travels so far. How many states have you gone to?
I was trying to count those up, not just for Libertarian Party stuff, but for various other projects that I work with. I think I'm up to 11 or 12 states at this point. So conventions, I think I've been to 5 of them, so maybe 6, maybe more.
You were at Tennessee. You were at
Georgia.
Georgia.
I wasn't there. I was a speaker in Missouri for Outright Libertarians.
Okay.
And I went to obviously Arizona's. That was our first one of the convention season, and it just so happened that I was right up the road from it. Thank God.
There you go. Gotta love that close.
I got back from California last weekend, and I was going to go to Colorado, but due to some personal matters, we had to drop that. I decided to focus on family this weekend. So
sure.
But yeah, so and then I've just recently got back from going back to Tennessee because the Nashville region chair there, Chelsea Baker, organized a homeless outreach and community outreach event, and it was arguably, out of a lot of the events I've been to for libertarian activism, it had one of the best turnouts I think I've ever seen. So, and people from all walks of this party showed up, and it was a beautiful thing. So,
yeah, I mean, you had Spike Cohen show up, you had Brent DeRitter. Tell me who else you had show up there.
Their state chair, Dave Jones, showed up. We had people from driving all the way from the Appalachia region on the other side of the state drove in to help out. People from an hour north drove down to help. Let's see, who else did we had? I think everybody that was there that everybody else besides me, Brent and Spike, unless I'm forgetting. It was a lot of events, but I think everybody there was an LPTN member. But you know, Brent coming down with his organization, Cell Liberty, and you know, teaching us how to market our messaging to communities like what we were doing outreach for was one of the best training courses I've ever taken, and I've worked a lot of lines of jobs. So like, but yeah, if you need help organizing something, Cell Liberty and Brent are definitely going to be
Brent's awesome,
big help.
So, tell me about the event, the outreach that you guys were doing.
So I got there, I believe it was Friday night, ended up hanging out with some of the LVTN members where we went over, and Saturday morning we went over to the Journey home in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, and we actually served breakfast and, you know, created to-go meals for the homeless community there in Murfreesboro. And then we got into our cars and went around, and we met up with some people willing to trust us, and went around and showed us where homeless encampments were all around the area. And we took the to-go meals that we had extras of and took it to these encampments and everything. And there was this one incident where me and Spike actually rode on a truck back into the woods. And Will Patton was the one that got us back there. And we went back and started handing out these food trays. And it was very humbling. This lady comes out of the tent and she bypasses the food completely and asks us if we just had a poncho for her. It was incredibly a humbling experience. And honestly, I would 10 out of 10 do it again. Actually, I'm hoping that we can get more events like that organized throughout the country, especially like places like here in Phoenix. And then I know there's pockets in West Virginia that would absolutely benefit, and people that would benefit if we, you know, went more on that voluntary service and charity we were trying to do. Later that day, I'm sorry.
We've got a member up here in the Eastern Panhandle that's doing a homeless outreach program. Barrett Robinson does little care bags, and so definitely, you know, it's all about replicating these great events that help the community. That I think moves this party forward.
Right. It showcases that we aren't just talking about improving our society, our lives. We're actually being about it, and I think that's what was the kind of surreal but connect for me. I was like, this is being libertarian. This is being a voluntarist. This is being an anarchist, or what have you, a liberty movement individual. Like, but yeah. And then later that day, we finished getting all the meals handed out. We went into Murfreesboro proper, set up our Libertarian Party Tennessee table right across from the Republican Party office, and right outside the Board of Elections.
Excellent.
And it was fantastic. And we did it all without a permit. No, I'm just kidding. Then we kind of gathered and had lunch, and then we went into the surrounding community, particularly communities that have been ignored by the municipal government there and the state of Tennessee. Interesting find we did have on that. There was a sign in a largely Black neighborhood that said fines for drugs are higher here.
Yes.
And you know, there's several pictures of it floating around. Like, there's the group photo, there's me flipping it off. There's like, because it was just that. I'm not gonna lie, it stuck in my craw a little bit. I was a little bit upset about it. I was like, how is this not systemic racism? Like, you know,
exactly. I mean, they put these signs all over the communities, and then they target the communities, even though we all know that drug use is pretty much across the board in every community.
Right. And
you know, especially cannabis use, and that's where they're particularly cracking down on people.
Exactly, and it's been a really revealing experience just in that regard, because it's like I remember seeing this in a lot of places I have lived and everything, but
Yeah.
now that I'm in the libertarian mind, I'm like, that's some bullshit, like, so but it was marginally successful. We definitely got people to like look into the Libertarian Party, at least look into the website, and like learn we are the party that's trying to help improve the circumstances that they have been put in, and trying to help like advance the criminal justice system and everything like that. And
Yeah.
actually, it was funny. Me and Dave Jones got invited to a barbecue by one of the people we talked to. Like, when you guys get down, you guys come back and grab a hot dog. So it was a little rough because, again, it was a bit of a rundown neighborhood, and they are not used to seeing people just kind of parading down the street with pamphlets in their hands and stuff like that, because people are ordinarily too afraid or conditioned that they should be afraid to go talk to people. And it's like, it's kind of a similar story when Jacob Hornberger and Spike Cohen did it in Wilmington, North Carolina, a couple of years, last year, a couple of years ago.
Yeah, it was last year.
Like like, so they were not used to people just boldly walking in and like being friendly and willing to talk to them. But it's like we didn't turn a street corner though where there wasn't a police officer or one of those signs or something like that. So it's kind of understandable they were a little bit off put by us. So I'm pretty sure Brent has avowed that we are going back to Murfreesboro, because he was like, we will do better this time. Like, so. But we got a few bites, and it was overall, in my opinion, a very successful event. So,
yeah, that's great.
Then we finished off the weekend in Carthage, I believe it was, where they had the pizza. The pizza bus is what I keep calling it because I can't remember the name of it. I think that might be the name, but. And we, had some fellowship and played some pool, and got to meet other libertarians that we don't always get to hang around and everything. So, which is also, I think, a very healthy thing. More fellowship events and everything like that outside of convention should be kind of a norm, I think, because if we're more familiar with each other, we actually, talk with each other about what we can do to help, then I feel like we'll get off the ground a little bit more in terms of getting more bodies at these rallies, these protests, these outreach events, these trainings. And I guess that's what I kind of admired about doing it, because Evan McMahon just recently got elected chair of Indiana, and they've already have a full slate of like 120 something candidates ready to go for the next election cycle, because he had done something similar where he worked and networked and lobbied and everything like that with all the libertarians throughout the state. So I sincerely admire Evan for that. So
Indiana's doing it right. If anyone's looking at a state or wants to look at a state that's doing their party building right, it is Indiana, and Evan's doing a great job there. Those people watching, you can also leave comments on YouTube, Facebook, wherever. We'll see them here, and we'll be happy to answer them. Thank you for watching us. So tell me, what is your craziest travel story so far?
Ooh. My craziest one. Probably somebody warning me before going to Missouri that somebody had made a comment they wanted to hurt me. But I don't. I heard what the comment was. I think it was just what we do, social media grandstanding and things like that. And I wasn't too worried about it. But it turned out that I actually showed up to Missouri, and a friend of mine from the military, Marine, showed up as my bodyguard. So. And it was his first time getting involved with anything organized libertarian, and it turned from him like watching the room like a hawk, which it was funny to me. I was laughing the whole time, but it actually turned to him engaging the speakers and everything that they were having, and actually getting involved and talking and networking with people about how to work on things such as indigenous rights in Missouri and things like that. And it was really cool to watch that transpire. I brand new a person to how we actually operate as an entity, learning about it and being eager about learning about it. And then right after that, huh?
He didn't get scared away. Wasn't scared.
No, no.
Nice.
I mean, he is a Marine, so I mean, like, but
I did higher stock than I.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then right after that, I got to meet somebody that was barely a week into the party, and we talked until the convention shut down. And it was just another cool, surreal experience to watch this person have their aha moment.
Yeah.
And and they were sitting there, and his name is Will. Really good guy. He was sitting there with a notebook, actually, like writing down like different. He asked for literature suggestions and everything like that, and really came there with a desire to learn. And again, it's another realization I had. We've got to quit treating people who may have a different opinion. They might actively want to be learning about what we're doing. So maybe just screaming, whereas I agree, screaming taxation is theft in their face is not going to like really give them any disseminated information about what we actually are. So,
well, yeah, and I agree with the concept of taxation as theft, and I won't bag on anybody who does it, but taxation as theft does not tell anybody how it makes their life better, and that's where you're going to change hearts and minds when it comes to politics. So, that's kind of the that's the second date stuff. You don't do that in the first date.
Right. Yeah. It gotta work that way.
Yeah. Don't show your kink on the first date, man.
Right.
So
that's too relatable there. Hold on, back on track.
But that's one thing we I think as libertarians we are not the most welcoming to new members who have a basic understanding of libertarianism, but may not be like 100. They're not on the tip top of the world's smallest political quiz. They're still a little lower than that, which is fine. But we tend to be dog eat dog when it comes to you have to be 100 by 100, and it to me that kind of tough love that a lot of people give doesn't work, and I think it's kind of fed into the factionalism we get within this party.
Right.
And you've seen it. You've been out on the trail. What do you think of the factionalism in this party?
I think the fractalization is an online boogeyman at this point, because everywhere I've been so far. Now, this is notwithstanding the obviously the Battle of Pittsburgh, as you called it a couple weeks ago. But I wasn't there. I'm not sure what exactly happened. I do know that California was a blast. Everybody got along. And there were some crazy things that happened, but nothing on par with the fractionalizing or anything like that. It was just, it's California. Wild things are going to happen. But yeah, no, I think it's honestly one of those things that it's a mostly online battle, and where there are some legitimate concerns on both sides. I think that a lot of that hatred and vitriol and the reactionaries have kind of turned it into something that they've have you ever heard the story about the empires that went to war over the stray dog? And
no.
Because they thought it was the king's dog. That's kind of where I'm like at with it. It's like somebody thought the stray dog was the king's dog, so they decided to launch a war that killed 5,000 people. So and that's kind of what I'm viewing this as. Yes, there are legitimate issues, if they actually stole a dog, I don't know. However, it's like all these members that I talk to, they don't have any legitimate qualms with each other, despite caucus lines and party lines and things like that. There's misinformation being passed around and everything, but once we actually get in person and start discussing things, hence the fellowship aspect that I mentioned, we start realizing that a lot of this stuff is just twisted in the cybernetic ether that is Facebook.
Yeah.
So, and I think honestly, there is something to be said about how easily we can turn on each other, and about welcoming new members and stuff like that, because now that's the first thing they see when they walk in the door. You invite a friend, or you open the door and hey, come on in, and your parents are throwing plates at each other. Yeah. So
I get that.
I don't know how else to say that. I'm not engaging for a reason, and it's because I'm working to keep our membership growing and keep us, a unified and formidable force in our most prime opportunity in the political realm, where the Republicans are splitting on themselves, the Democrats are splitting on, and the Republicans basically imploded. And I'm not really even sure what they're doing. I mean, Matt Gaetz is out doing some weird stuff right now, but you don't really hear anything much about the Republicans anymore. The Democrats can't seem to get along on anything in their own party and everything. Libertarians have a prime opportunity, and we're wasting that energy on. Honestly, what I can say would break down to who can pull more members, and that's kind of a competition I would like to have. Granted, the quality of membership is always a factor too, and that should also be considered. Like I said, there's concerns on both sides, so it's like we're just not getting involved because it's too much mental energy, too much negative energy for me to waste time on. So
yeah, and to me, like, while we fight, Biden passes another executive order. While we fight, we continue to sit in Afghanistan. While we fight, we we're still putting kids in cages. We are focusing our fire where it should not be focused. Now, if it is who can bring more members to the party, that's excellent. But we need to remember that our political energy should be expended on places where we can make the changes.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I agree with that, but at the same time, it's like it doesn't just have to be like things like the big issues we should be standing against. Our ballot access is on the line, which is I'm one of the advisory members for ballot access for the LNC, and it's kind of terrifying, like how scared some of these people I've talked to in various states, namely like Tennessee and Alabama. Even I have touched people in Illinois about what they've got going on, and it's insane to thanks, Chris. But it's one of those things. It's like we have that behemoth that we have to slay, and we can't do that because people are like, oh, I don't want to work with them because I heard this on a Facebook comment thread or something like that. Don't work with an individual. Don't paint them because they're associated. Like, that's why I'm saying you can't broad stroke. I'm always, if I have made any attacks in this whole war, it's always been directly at the person who caused the trouble. It's never been like, oh, because you're friendly with them or anything like that. I can think some of your friends are shitbags. That's fine. Like some of mine might arguably be to you and your perception, but that's the thing. I'm not going to say you're objectively just a terrible person. Maybe you need to keep better company. Arguably, I do too. But it's not worth jeopardizing things like ballot access. It's not worth jeopardizing things like membership drives. Like, it's just not worth it. Like,
if it's keeping you in focused on Twitter or Facebook, you're right. It's not just the big issues. Go to your city council and lobby against overregulation of Airbnbs or get a volunteer effort to deal with the homeless situation in your community. There are things that you could be doing that show libertarians in the community and show people doing the thing that we want people to see us for, rather than fighting on Facebook or Twitter or whatever.
And that's the big thing, because we could be, I was just talking with a friend of mine earlier about these are issues that we could be focusing on, even if it's not under the libertarian banner. Like, my friend that showed up as my body man up there in Missouri, he brought up, certain things that are going on, like indigenous issues and everything like that. Yeah. I'm not real familiar with the indigenous population of Missouri, but, apparently, some of these speakers were, and the back and forth that he had with them. This is something we don't have to fly a libertarian banner, but we can absolutely put the libertarian message with that, because we stand for basically what this guy was advocating for. It doesn't have Justin Cornett for All Tennessee over there. He's doing things with a nonprofit, working with people from all across, pushing liberty-minded policy, libertarian philosophy through. Just because it's not with the label does not mean that that's not, we need to highlight things, like you said, we need to highlight things like that, or at least get involved, or like get people where they can, make these more successful, more commonplace across the country. And that's also been kind of like I have been kind of like putting back on the little convention schedule, because I actually do want to reach out. I talked to, I believe it was Ty Ward last night in your state, and about maybe helping him out with the Kanawha Valley and everything like that, because he's wanting to start events and everything. I was like, let me know. We can get this worked. We can get some advocacy going. Like, I mean, Rich, if you're watching, give me a call. We can do some hot policy together, policy. I said that. It's like things. I'm sorry.
And we can do some pot together too.
Right. Yeah. It's whatever. I mean, it's great for my health. So.
Yeah. Exactly. So, talk a little bit about travel in the age of COVID. How much of a pain in the ass has that been?
Honestly, I don't. I can already see the Facebook comments now. I actually kind of like the way travel standards are now. TSA is afraid to touch it, just wants you out of the way. Like the way they board aircraft is much faster. Like go by rows and what's on your ticket. Like I don't know. Granted, obviously there's the federal aspect that's making them do shit like that. But I'm like, this is kind of efficient. Like it hasn't been too much of a pain, other than I get a little jumpy every time I see the gate worker pull out the thermometer and point it at my face. I'm like, whoa! Like, that's probably the most frustrating part, because they don't give you any warning. It's just like, hey.
They don't have the digital one? Is it a digital thermometer?
Yeah, it's like what? Yeah, it's like
they're making everyone take the little dip in the mouth. No.
Oh yeah. Open wide, sir. No.
Hey, it could be worse. Could be the anal thermometer. So
arguably.
Well,
anyway, don't bring out your kink on the first day, David.
That's right.
No. Yeah, I think the worst part of the traveling wasn't even COVID restriction related. It was getting almost stranded in Bozeman, Montana.
Oh yeah.
I guess there had been like a thunderstorm or like a winter storm in where was I landing that week? I want to say it was Nashville's import. Yeah, it was BNA. Yeah, I was landing, but they had a thunderstorm or something. It's like, well, that flight's been canceled. And like, yeah, I got stranded in Bozeman for probably about 3 hours trying to figure something out. And then these other airlines, like, we've got a flight going into Nashville. What are they talking about? Like, they just happened to overhear. Free market in action. Anyway.
Who are you flying? That sounds like a Frontier thing.
It was absolutely a Frontier thing.
Frontier. Frontier is not.
I'm not a rich man. I have to fly budget. So
no, I get you. But Frontier is spelled Frontear, because that is all you get from Frontier.
Oh man, I'm still waiting on a refund from that, actually.
Oh yeah, get comfy. Yeah, I missed a trip to New Mexico because of Frontier, and they have earned my undying enmity. So. So you are also a member of the Radical Caucus. Are you're secretary of the Radical Caucus?
I'm their corresponding secretary. So I'm basically in charge of getting the membership alerted to having meetings or forums or things when votes are coming. What schedules, keeping our membership apprised of what's going on at the board level. So
yeah.
We do have a recording secretary as well who handles the minutes and the the administrative side of it. I'm more of the relay between the two groups.
Almost like a media type.
Kind of. I do not want them to trust me with social media. I've just recently understood how to work Clubhouse, so. I can handle administrative, and I can push, putting things where they need to go and putting them in their place. But trying to learn a whole social media marketing and everything like that, that's not my bag. I'm more of an administrator than I am a.
Yeah, we'll talk about Clubhouse on the After Dark show, because to me, that's just Zoom without video. It's just a series of Zoom rooms, and the Liberty ones are good, but for the most part, it's either like weird conspiracy stuff or amateur hour for TED Talks. Like, I'm going to be my best self, and oh God, just shut up. But anyway.
Like Casey Crow down in South Carolina, he actually made a comment. He was like, I love like this generation's just returning to, that was terrified of talking on the phone at all, is now returning to party lines.
Like, yeah, it's a party line. Yeah, absolutely. Like we're actually going down in technology now, which is kind of refreshing. I've got a theory that once COVID really, when it was great this week. I finally got to go shopping without a mask on, and once we get past all this crap, that people are just going to start abandoning social media as much as it was used. People are going to want to get out and do things. And
I could see that. That's an interesting theory, actually. I wonder what will happen.
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to completely
get a lot quieter.
Yeah. I mean, it won't be completely abandoned, but it will be. People will value more. I mean, there are some people that are just like, I love being an introvert and being at home. That's not going to change for them. But the people who have been kept inside and haven't been doing anything, they're going to leave with a vengeance. So
right.
But so what drove you to the radical message?
So I suppose I've always been sort of just a radical person in terms of my belief system. I came from the right. I was a Republican for a very long time. I was very diehard traditionalist conservative. I know, funny, right?
That's great too, man.
Completely shattered that entire barrier. But yeah, I came from the right as a Republican and everything, and I was, like I said, I was very into promoting I hate using this word because it's surrounded by such negativity, but the purest message of conservatism and everything. Like, if we are conservatives, and I started realizing, if we are conservatives, why are we paying so much for a border wall? Why do we keep trying to go to war? If we're actually economically worried about things, like I started thinking about things like that. And, this is also as I'm getting out and out processing the military and everything. I gotten back from deployment, and I had just been thinking about our foreign policy, our very imperialist foreign policy, and I happened to be watching C-SPAN with a bunch of my buddies who were all still kind of in tune, if not active, with the party. And again, I can already see comment threads, but like it or not, James Weeks doing his thing in NOLA. Actually, think about it. It makes sense if you think about it. A bunch of young military guys that don't give really a shit about life. Like seeing a guy, political person, actually we were like, huh, that's pretty ballsy. Let's check them out. So I mean, argue, love him or hate him, he brought 5 of us to give this movement a second glance, and 5 veterans at that. So I mean,
yeah, we do have a lot of veterans within the LP ranks. I always theorize that it's more because they've experienced the backlash of our foreign policy more than anybody, especially any civilian here. Is that what your sense is, that draws a lot of veterans to our party?
I think it's especially in the age of social media, where information can't be freely exchanged. A lot more is being revealed, and a lot of the illusion of pseudo patriotism is being shattered, even for people who are still currently members of the military. And I think that's when they do get out, that's what makes them so drawn to things like libertarianism, even the Green Party. Because I know a lot of Green Party members that are veterans that I've served with, or at least I know have served. And it's like they're drawn to something that's going to buck the status quo, because they have found a moral objection to how we operate in terms of military operations and foreign policy and everything like that. And we now have kind of collectively come to the understanding it is not in good faith. No part of what we're doing is in good faith anymore. It may have been back in the day, but no part of what we're doing anymore is in good faith. It is absolutely in my eyes, something that is designed to corral, condition, and subjugate, and it's doing its job, unfortunately. And so to kind of circle back, my opinions started developing on that. I started reading a lot more. Hayek is daddy. Like, I was reading him. I started learning more a little bit about anarchy and everything after I read some Murray Rothbard, a lot of Ludwig von Mises, everything. Like, I started to get really into it. And I suppose that's when I started getting more involved with the party as an entity. I started learning about the caucuses, and I was really drawn to the energy of the radicals I didn't know at the time. But I knew them before I knew them as radical members. It was like, this makes sense. Like, now we can all come together, and they have, and arguably, like, I've heard it said that, a lot of people who identify as radical are some of the harder workers and everything like that. Mm-hmm. In my experience, I've seen that to be true. Yep. But again, it's like, you have people in Prags and Mises, and the Pragmatic and the Mises, and even the Audacious Caucus, who are incredibly hardworking activists for this party and trying to spread our message. But it's like, I was drawn to them being able to disseminate the libertarian philosophy unfiltered to new members that would join and subsequently join the caucus and everything. So we've actually seen some pretty interesting growth over the past year. I think we've brought on, I want to say, 4 state coordinators, and we've gotten a lot more email registrations, or at least people that are like taking looks at our caucus. They'll take pamphlets and buttons and everything. But a lot of people are like, it's just a bunch of crazy, chaotic anarchists. And no, we absolutely believe in aggression. We absolutely do have a mission statement that is meant to unabashedly and unapologetically be libertarian. And that's, I think, what has kind of solidified why I like working with them, and why I honestly like interacting with other caucuses and other caucus members in this party, because it's interesting to see the exchange of information. And I feel like, in a way, we can all help each other in that sense because of our unfiltered messaging. The Pragmatic Caucus is really good at marketing, everything like that. The Mises Caucus has members who are very economically astute. The Audacious are kind of in our corner, and they will go after, like, the younger crowd, and they will absolutely bring attention to obscure things that we wouldn't normally pay attention to. Mm-hmm. And I think that, like, we all bring something to the table. I feel like I just fall more on the radical side of things, so because of how my thought processes work and what I want to actually see maintained throughout the years. So
one of the things I think that has been damaged by COVID is this cohesiveness. And we never really had just total cohesiveness within the Libertarian Party. We always fight for whatever reason. But I think COVID, because it's kept us apart and kept us on the toxic soup that is social media, has driven a lot more of these social media fights between the caucuses. And I think once we start getting back into the conventions where we're actually sitting in the room with each other and be able to talk with each other and go to social events with each other and find out we're not all assholes. I think we'll I think perhaps we can tamper down some of the factionalism that we're seeing. But I love working with pretty much anybody. I could, if you come to me and you want to work on something, like my favorite person to work with right now is Susan Hogarth, who's the Region 5 alternate, Region 5 rep, so because she's, we work together so well, and it's not, we don't, oh, well, you're this and she's that. It's that, she loves spiders and I hate spiders, but we get along so well. So I love seeing Susan. I love hanging out with Susan. So, but yeah, you don't have to just stick in your own little echo chamber, especially when we start getting back out there into conventions and social events. Friend of Radical, friend of Pragmatic, friend of Mises, get to know each other and share information, and you'll probably find that you don't disagree all that hard on things. Maybe some tactics, maybe some of the minutiae of libertarianism.
Yeah, to piggyback on that even if you do find you still disagree at some fundamental level, it's expedient to do that in person. It's expedient to do that just for your mental peace, because now you know where you stand with this particular individual, or
Mhm.
you can actually disseminate, should I be allying with, or who is actually here to work, who is actually just here to troll,
Yeah.
because there have been incidents, none in my experience, but I'm aware of instances where it's like you find out that person, no, they're just legitimately an asshole, like I, like,
It happens. Yeah, there are old name
so
names right now, but yeah.
I mean, I can't. I've had a few people in my travels that have like come up and like, wow, you're not, this or that. I just had heard this, or so. I was like, no, I'm pretty chill. I'm a dog dad. I like long walks on the beach. Well, long
Yeah.
hobbles. But it's like it's been weird because, like I said, it's rewarding to also find out if there are actually people who are out to hurt the movement or more fractionalize it. And if there are, then now that awareness is there, and now you can start looking for people here to work. So
Yeah. I mean, I had one today say that he wants to fight the LNC to the death right now. It was an interesting post. It's one of our favorite electoral folks.
well, maybe not to the death, but I am just picturing a fundraising event where you can box a member of the LNC of your choice.
I'm really not a fighter. I will fight you to the mild annoyance. I think that's about as far as I go. Maybe nickel fight, maybe I don't know.
Hey, want to take
Yeah,
on Jared Hall? Just like have their like own little like fundraising bars, and like each time they raise money, whoever the top three are who enter the Thunderdome, like
we could just do it like a wrestling Royal Rumble. Just start sending people down
right.
to the holes. We're making ideas for 2022. I think that'll be fun. We only have a year. Next weekend is a 1 year until the LNC, until your election. How many conventions are you planning on hitting between now and then?
Well, I'm hoping to revisit a few of them. Well, yes, it will be for campaigning purposes. Also, to be for ballot access purposes, and seeing where we're at and helping.
I think we lost Arizona internet. Yeah, we lost him for a second. But anyway, yeah. So, I mean, for me, the factionalism is dumb. We waste too much energy on that. And oh, there we go. Lost you for a sec, man.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay. Yeah,
there we go.
Had a router issue. What was my train of thought? I'm sorry.
I lost it too. I asked you about the convention schedule next year.
Yeah. So I'm planning on reheating a few of them, helping out with ballot access and campaigning. Mainly, my focus is I am a ballot access committee advisory member, so that will be my primary focus. But that being said, I think I'm hitting, if all goes to plan, I will be hitting Michigan, North Carolina, Hawaii, and South Carolina. There's someone else, Illinois, as far as the rest of this year is concerned.
Yeah.
I just booked, I just booked my flight to Michigan's. So that one's for sure going, unless, I don't know, disappear. But yeah, so I'm planning on hitting Arizona's convention again. Obviously, Tennessee and Georgia are on my list for sure.
Yeah.
I made it to California this year, so if they have something going on the same time again next year, Pennsylvania, I will be the one I will go to. It's weird. I have to who gets custody of me this weekend? But the convention schedule is going to be very heavy. We've got my campaign director Caitlin Cloven and a few others that are here now that we were planning travel strategy, as I've been calling it. because it's like we have to think of the logistics and the funding and everything like that. So
yeah.
And like I said, I do have a business Venmo that people can donate to for that, and none of that really goes to me. It goes to people like Caitlin Cloven or Arizona, or people that are working with the campaign, so they can also travel and be taken care of. It's not something that.
What's the website?
It's just a Venmo link. I can send it to you, I think.
All right, we'll put it up a little bit later then.
Yeah.
So, the other thing that you're heavily involved in is Outright Libertarians. And if you look over, yep, there we go. Right there is the Outright Libertarians Dragbot calendar. This month,
it's James Weeks.
Featuring previously mentioned James Weeks, looking mighty svelte and mighty hot as Miss May. And, I love this calendar. You were Mr. March.
I was. I thoroughly enjoyed being Miss March, who my drag name is Ann R. Key.
Great name. Great name.
If you happen to be an owner or plan on purchasing one of these calendars, just a heads up, I had no idea what was going to happen on the 6th. Because that has been a question. Like, is this like are you like supporting what happened? I was like, no, that picture was taken in November of last year. Like, so I guess I'd be Nostradamus.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, it's I'm the treasurer for Outright. I've been trying to help out a little bit with their outreach too, just with everything that's been going on, especially with the pandemic, some personal issues, everything like that. I have kind of scaled back a little bit, so I haven't been on their public forum or anything recently. But again, I'm supposed to be the number guy, so really, what really do you want to ask the treasurer unless you're like part of the IRS? So, and then even then, I'm not going to talk to you. So, but
so what other outreach events do Outright have planned, especially like for Pride Month?
Right now, it's heavily. Do what?
Right, we're coming right up on Pride Month here pretty soon. So,
right, yeah, which I'm super excited about. There's some plans going on. We just got a couple of new outreach members from Tennessee who are heavily involved with other organizations concerning Pride. We've got somebody that we're trying to put in talks in Missouri, who is a Libertarian Party member there. Incidentally, she is, I believe, an award winner for their convention for lifetime achievement. So she's very active, and she's interested in helping us out. We're planning on trying to help out with booths and getting merchandise put out, like such as our buttons here. We have a website that we're going to start. We've started putting things on that you should be able to order things through. If you want to set up something for your local, it's Libertarian Table, or if you just want to do something on your own for your Pride event. So I mean, it's a lot of that's going, and then we've been very policy focused and driven from what I've been privy to concerning a lot of these anti-trans bills and some other troubling legislation, such as what's going on in Texas and West Virginia, I believe, is one of the states that we have been focused on because of their sporting ban, I think it was. So that's been a big focal point, is like, issuing, working on policy and getting people to help get those new laws either completely redone or completely repealed. So because like I said, a lot of people assume we're a caucus. We're actually not. We are just a 501c3. We are an education and charity organization, but we are, involved with shaping policy and coming up with improvements for the GSM community, which again, in turn, could be a very libertarian statement, because freedom doesn't mean shit if it's not freedom for all, not just y'all. So.
Yep, exactly. So going back to the calendar, what besides March, which is your favorite month on there?
Oh Lord, that is a toss-up between Ryan Shaw, for Miss December. And Darren Pollock, I forget what month he is. I'm pretty sure he is October. Hold on, I have one right here. I don't know why I asked this question.
My two favorite are Matt Hicks, who's Oktoberfest.
Yeah, no, I forgot about that one.
I love that one. That one's great. And then Vermin in January.
Yeah, Vermin is funny as hell. I remember when he sent in his pictures, and I was looking at, I was like, oh my God. I don't know who did his makeup, but it was kind of impressive. Like,
yeah, it was.
I'm surprised how he did it around the beard.
Exactly. But so in our remaining few minutes here, you were born and raised in West Virginia. So we're the only state in the union that lost population over the last 10 years. In 1960, we were a state that had 8 congressional reps. We're going to be down to 2 in 2022. Why is this state so fucked up?
Well, if I knew that, I'd be living there and running for governor. Was this the hint? Is this the segue, David?
Yeah. You've been recruited.
No, sorry, babe, we're moving again. Big plans. No, honestly, I remember just growing up hearing a lot of what the complaint was, especially in my household. This could be purely anecdotal, but the medical care in the state is completely subpar. The medical standards are non-existent for any of it, like the care, the aftercare, hospice, elderly. That was one of the big ones that I remember, because originally a lot of kids wanted to be cops or firemen or a dinosaur when they grew up. I actually had established in my head I wanted to become a trauma surgeon because we had so many medical malpractice cases that I would keep hearing about. My family discussed. Obviously, I didn't realize this until I was later in life and deciding what I wanted to do after college. But I was like, I want to be a doctor here because you guys need good ones. And unfortunately, that life, threw me on a whirlwind of adventure, and that didn't happen. But that, I think that might be a big part of it, especially with their constraints on alternative medicines, which again, I know that term comes with its own brand of reaction and how people perceive it, but such as marijuana legalization. I mean, let's be real here. We talked about that a few weeks ago on the After Hours show, and it's that's something that could completely turn the state around. On top of that, though, it could also help with the other thing that I think is the problem. The state is broke. It is so poor. The King Cole Highway still isn't finished, right? That started right after I was born. There's still a skeleton in my hometown.
Quarter H, and they've raised so much money for roads here that it's amazing. We should have pristine, perfect roads. As much money as they've raised, as much money as we pay in road taxes. And then the prosperity roads to prosperity bonds that we approved a couple of years ago.
Right.
We're starting to get a little bit better, but I mean, there's still roads that have been broken since the Carter administration that are,
I wanted to make a joke, but libertarians may hate roads, but you'll never hate roads as much as West Virginia libertarians.
Exactly.
I like to joke about their potholes. We literally have them cracking, guys, and they're like Boeing.
So definitely, if you want to come back and run for governor, I would really love that.
Right, let me check with Erica and make sure that she doesn't have any aspirations to do it.
Oh, we were trying to talk her into do it too. So whoever wants it. But
so we'll rock paper scissors. Whoever doesn't win gets to be lieutenant governor.
There you go. So anything else you want to tell us? We're just about out of time here.
No, honestly, I hope that this interview with you has helped a lot of people get a little bit of an insight to who I am. I'm not a malicious or vindictive person, as some people have thought. I am sassy, but only if you make me mad. And then afterwards, I'll be like, I'm going to buy you a shot, but you're a cunt. No, I'm just kidding. Pardon my French. but it's like I hope this gave some insight, and I hope that I have earned some support for my run for LNC Secretary. And again, you don't have a losing battle here. Two great, in my opinion, maybe patting myself on the back, but two great choices for people who know how to do the job and are interested in actually, keeping the Libertarian Party formidable in the age of the duopoly crumbling. So
two people who love the Libertarian Party and want to make it succeed. So, but
absolutely.
Tyler, thank you so much for being on the show. I know that you do the After Dark show almost weekly, and but getting everyone to see what an awesome person you are and an awesome candidate you're going to be. I'm just thankful that you're able to carve some time out for this week, and we'll see you here in a couple minutes on the After Dark show.
Absolutely. I'm going to go change because.
All right. Yeah. Get comfortable.
All right. See you in a bit.
All right. Thanks everybody for watching the political deep dive. My name is Dave Valente. You're watching the episode with Tyler Smith. We are going to do the After Dark show. Dan and Emily and Karen and Tyler will be joining us, and join us on whatever medium you've joined us on. Give us a like and a share or thanks or whatever. And on Monday, the audio of this is going to be on SoundCloud. So share it as a podcast if you want to do that as well. So anyway, next week I'll have a big announcement for where the political deep dive is going to be heading as we head into June. But it's exciting news, and I can't wait to share it. So anyway, thank you so much for joining us, and we will talk to everyone next week. Thank you for tuning into this episode of the Political Deep Dive. We air every Sunday night at 8 p.m. You can follow us on Facebook.com/The Political Deep Dive, all one word, on Twitter.com/Political Deep, on YouTube.com/Papaduke, PAPADUKE, and on Twitch.tv/The Political Deep Dive, all one word. On Monday, the audio of the previous night's episode is found on SoundCloud.com/The Political Deep Dive, all one word. And you can join in on the fun on Instagram.com/The Political Deep Dive, all one word. Thanks to People for Liberty for their continued support at people4liberty.org, and on Facebook.com/People4Liberty Inc. Give us a like and a share on whatever platform you are viewing us from. It helps us out, and we certainly appreciate the support. We look forward to seeing you Sunday night at 8 p.m. Eastern.